Happy Thanksgiving to all my fellow Americans. If you're joining me, I am really, really thankful. And if you're not an American celebrating the day as we do, I want to thank you for tuning in as well. So, before we get into it, let's start off with a little bit of music to sort of put us into the mood. So I'm doing a few Lagavulins tonight, um, and got a bunch on my mind. Got a bunch of things on my mind. First, let me pour myself something. This is the Lagavulin 8-year-old. I will provide the notes on these shortly. So the holidays can be a bit challenging, I know, for some people. My parents have passed away. Grandparents are gone. All aunts and uncles have gone. My oldest brother's gone. Wife is gone. So most of the family has passed away. I have a few surviving brothers and a couple of cousins, but we're not getting together. My youngest brother, I haven't heard from, or I really, excuse me, I haven't seen him in years, and I haven't seen my nephews. So other people, maybe they have to work, maybe they're distant from home. I remember the first 2 years when I was in the Marine Corps, I didn't get to go home for any of the holidays. I was a military policeman, and we worked 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. And first 2 years, I didn't get to go home. So kind of lonely, Thanksgiving, essentially working all night. I was on the night shift, and then going to the chow hall, to eat Marine Corps turkey. Hoorah. So other people, doctors, nurses, firemen, police officers, and others that are working 24 hours a day, have similar sort of hours, are also not able to gather with their family. So, you know, you can make a choice. I can either say, "Oh, I'm lonely. Oh, I remember the old days when we used to get families to get together, and we had all the turkey and all the stuff and all the celebration, and the family traditions that surround Thanksgiving." And I miss those. I miss the relatives and friends that are gone. But so you can kind of focus too much on the past and focus on what has been lost, and consequently become really, really down. And some people do, around the holidays, they get down. Or I can make a choice to say, you know what? I'm going to make the most of the day, have a good time. And what better thing to do than to have a meetup with, excuse me, a meetup with fellow whiskey tubers, some of whom are also Americans and some are not. Now, maybe some of you, you've already had the Thanksgiving dinner. It's after dinner. Maybe it's gone home. Some people have, overdosed on tryptophan and they've passed out in front of the television or something like that. The kids are outside playing. So now you got a time for a dram to join with me. And if that's the case, I want to thank you very much. So I really want to spend a little bit of time enjoying these whiskeys, talk a little bit about Lagavulin, but also spend more time reflecting and recounting and counting the things that I am and we are thankful for. So I'm going to do 3 whiskeys from Lagavulin. I have a lot more. I'm not going to put myself under the table and continue to drink Lagavulins. I have 3 of the core range. I don't have a 16-year-old. I'm out. I have a whole bunch of special bottlings. I have the Jazz Festival. I got Fish Ale editions. I've got distillery editions and that kind of a thing. But I'm not going to get into those. I just want to focus on the 8, the 12, the 8, the 11, and the 12. I'm going to focus on those. But before we do, let's get into a little bit and a little background on Lagavulin. And I'm going to share with you some pictures that I took during my visit and tour to Islay and particularly Lagavulin Distillery. All right. Where'd it go? There we go. Lagavulin Distillery is located in southern Islay, Scotland. The distillery was founded in 1816. Records show illicit distillation in at least 10 illegal distilleries on the site as far back as 1742. The distillery was founded by John Johnston and Archibald Campbell Brooks, who constructed 2 distilleries on the site. One of them became Lagavulin, taking over the other. Which one is not exactly known. The distillery is currently owned by Diageo. The name Lagavulin is an Anglicization of Lagavulin, the Scottish Gaelic for hollow of the mill. So that last shot there, you saw Ian MacArthur. If you don't know who he is, he's probably, if he's still there, if he hasn't retired yet, he's probably been there close to 50 years. He is a legend on Islay, and we did a warehouse tour, but you're not really doing a tour. What you do is you go into the warehouse with a bunch of cast. Basically, everybody who's on the tour goes in sort of a semicircle. And then they have a long lineup of casks. I think all of them are cask strength. And you taste a number of different whiskeys. And Ian is a really, 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 really funny guy. He's quite the character. I got baptized by him with whiskey. I guess he kind of picks one out of every tour group, someone to sort of pick on, I didn't mind. It was kind of funny. He wipes it on my head and that kind of a thing. If you haven't been to Islay and you're gonna visit Lagavulin, do the warehouse tour. I don't know how much longer he will keep working. Eventually, probably is gonna retire, but he is really, really quite an experience. So we currently have 28 people tuning in. Wow, which is pretty good. Let me at least say hello to a few of y'all. Paul Ann, thanks for tuning in. Whiskey Lover Society, IC86. Michael Oporto, Fernando, Whiskey with Molly, Jeff Whiskey, Dara Macias, Rob Halford. How you doing, man? Who apparently has no relation to the Rob Halford of Judas Priest. Mark Jimmy Leg, how you doing? Richard Anu. I'm just scrolling here real quick. Mike Hassler, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Highland Harnish, thank you very much for tuning in. All right, so normally this time of day, I don't get to see a lot of Roy's live streams. Typically, I'm working this time of day, but because it's a holiday, I'm home. Sometimes I'm in my office and I might be able to sort of listen, but I'm working. I'm doing paperwork or that kind of thing. And, I'm sort of listening off to the side, but a lot of times I can't really engage a whole lot. So most of the time I catch them on the replay. So Roy, if you happen to be watching or see this later, thank you very much for the tip and to send people on my way. So this is the Lagavulin 8-year-old. And even if I was doing a blind, there's something very distinctive about it that lets me know the certain character of it. So let me bring up the notes real quick on this. So the Lagavulin 8-year-old released to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the founding of the distillery, bottled at 48% alcohol by volume. And of course, prices always vary. It sells for about $50. I'm guessing that might be an old price, but it's still very, 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 very affordable. Now, when I get on this, it is very, very youthful. Sort of hard to describe sometimes what that is like. It's a green note. Sometimes it can be a lime note. Sometimes it can be like green apple. This comes across a little bit more as a green melon, maybe like a cantaloupe. There's a little bit of mint there as well. The smoke and peat are coming through. A little bit of saltiness. But what it doesn't have that makes it distinguish it from its neighbor Laphroaig, it doesn't have the medicinal character. It doesn't have the heavy oceanic character. It doesn't have the iodine and those kind of characteristics. I find, and if you disagree with me, let me know if you've experienced some of this. When you taste a lot of whiskeys from a particular distillery and you get to really know them, you've been through a number of different bottlings. Maybe you've visited the distillery and you finish some bottlings. After a while, You get a certain sense of the character, of the personality of a distillery. Now, earlier this week, I posted a video of my top 5 whiskeys for the holidays. And most people, knowing me because I'm a big Ardbeg fan, were sort of surprised, and they commented down below the video that I didn't mention Ardbeg. One of the reasons why I didn't do Ardbeg and I did Lagavulin, Lagavulin really has, I would say, branded and marketed itself, I think, better for the holiday crowd, particularly with the help of Nick Offerman. There's this comical video. I used it in the intro here, where they're eating Thanksgiving dinner and they're talking about, they're sort of imitating the typical chat you have over Thanksgiving dinner about politics and things going on in the day and what was in the news, and the small chat you have over Thanksgiving dinner. And then as the camera focuses in, and then as the camera pans back out, they've switched from Thanksgiving dinner over into Lagavulin. So, and then there's the other video in which, and I put a clip of it in my top 5 video, where it's Nick Offerman with a bottle of Lagavulin sitting next to a fire. There's these videos you can watch. It's like 10 hours long or you can sit there and watch them on YouTube. So if you don't have a fireplace, or if you want to simulate a fireplace on your computer, you can have this fire going, and you hear the crackling of the fire, and every once in a while someone might come in and add another log to it. So it's a simulated fireplace, on YouTube. Well, so Nick Offerman sort of did a tongue-in-cheek thing where he's sitting next to the fire and he's drinking Lagavulin. He's just sitting there. Every once in a blue moon, he picks up the glass, takes a sip, and there's like a 10-hour version of this. So you can have a Nick Offerman video playing for 10 hours, and have him as your background on your computer screen. So the Lagavulin 8, it has that. It's a new make character, but it's shown its youth, but it has a heavy peat character. I would say the peat and smoke character is more on this than it is on some of the other ones. As whiskey ages, or typically, some of the peat characters can become much more integrated into the whiskey, so they're not as prominent, they're not as much in your face, or they can seem to diminish in other ways. Whether they are diminishing in their peaty character, smoky character, because it's becoming much more integrated into the whiskey through age, or whether it's dissipating, that I'm not sure. The only way you'd be able to know is if you did a ppm check of the whiskey at an earlier age and then did another ppm check later as it got older. Whatever it is, whichever it is, the smoky and peaty character is much more in your face on this, sort of like the Wee Beastie from Ardbeg. The difference is Ardbeg uses a sherry cask as well as a bourbon cask. So I actually prefer the Wee Beastie over this one because they have a little bit of difference there in the cask. But this shows that sort of spirity, green lime, green melon character, and it has much more of an intensity of a smoke. But as it's opened up, the smoke and the peaty character has really surrounded the whiskey, as well as become more integrated into it, and it develops this particularly on the back end. It's real nice mint chocolate character, this chocolate mint character, like a York's peppermint patty. Mark asked me, how do you like the Game of Thrones Lagavulin? I got mine for under $40. So for me, it's a great value. Wow. To tell you the truth, I've not had it. I watched the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones. To me, it seemed like if Lord of the Rings became a snuff porn film, that's Game of Thrones. So I couldn't take it anymore. I stopped watching it. So a lot of whiskey tubers got into the kick. I got in of the whole Game of Thrones thing. So they're doing the videos and stuff. I wasn't into the show, so I really didn't get into the whiskeys as well. And of course, there was a funny hype. People were buying them like crazy, thinking they were going to be able to flip them and make some money. And then they had a second release of the bottles, and the market got flooded with them. And consequently, the demand was no longer there. The hype was no longer there. And people who spent a ton of money on them, thinking they were going to flip them, ended up losing out on it. But as you did, once the hype went away, and apparently, I guess the last episode of Game of Thrones was a major disappointment. I don't know. Didn't watch it. Don't care. But from people who watched the whole thing, it was a bit of a letdown. What happens is because the hype of the Game of Thrones bottles went away. Consequently, there was an abundance on the market. Consequently, as you did, you're able to get a great deal. So if you don't care about the Game of Thrones crap, but you just want to get a better deal on a whiskey, you had an opportunity to jump on them. And of course, some of them, such as the Johnny Walker White Walker, I didn't buy a bottle, but I did taste it, and that was pure. It was no bueno. I think at one point, I think I saw those for sale at like $8 to $10. They were going for that cheap. Absolutely wretched whiskeys, you know. Mm, 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 mm. So, in dealing with the holidays, I'm really, I get really, really hyped up for them, particularly Christmas. I love Christmas. Love Christmas music. I love the Christmas food. I love the season. I love the coldness of the air. I like Scotch Down Under is here. He says he doesn't wait till the cold season to start drinking peated whiskeys because it's hot down there all the damn time, and so he would never get around to drinking peated whiskeys, or very rarely would if that's what he's waiting for. But for me, I got a hoodie on. It was 37 degrees this morning when I got up this morning. I actually got up, put on a heavy coat, and went for a walk. A walk along the golf course and the trail and stuff. And it was really, really cold. So I went for a walk first thing in the morning, even before I had my cup of coffee. And it just puts me in the mood for peated whiskeys. I love this time of year. The fall colors here where I live in Sonoma County have been absolutely spectacular. The vineyards, most of them now are losing the leaves, but the fall colors have been all the reds and yellows and greens and now then turning browns. It's been absolutely spectacular, and it really puts me in the mood for drinking a little more ABV and a little bit more peat. So another reason why for doing this whiskey for Lagavulins is not only do I think they've marketed themselves more towards the holidays, I love the peat character. It is a different character than Ardbeg. I think there's more contrast between the character of the bottlings with an Ardbeg, and I'll probably make more reference to it as I go through these three. There's more similarities from bottle to bottle among Lagavulin than there is with Ardbeg. Bunnahabhain, my second favorite distillery on Islay, my second favorite Scotch distillery, period, also has more just radical distinction between the bottlings, just different character. So this is my perception, is the Lagavulins, all the different bottlings are on a spectrum. You're going through changing from bottle to bottle to bottle. There's some very strong similarities, but with some minor adjustments as you go through them. Whereas I would say both Ardbeg and Bunnahabhain, going from bottle to bottle is much more of a radical change in character, and yet still at their core maintaining an Ardbeg character, Ardbegginess, as I like to call it, or a certain Bunnahabhain character to it. So Mike Hassler says he's into Halloween and Thanksgiving, not so much Christmas. I don't like the over commercialization of anything. Excuse me. Tomorrow is they call Black Friday, and almost every year, it's in the news because the news stations make their money off of blood, and violence and hype. That if everything's fine and dandy, they don't ever tell you anything good. They like to pump up the bad and accentuate the bad that goes on. But nevertheless, in the news, people get up at 0 dark 30 to save 55% on large screen television by going to Walmart or some other store. Inevitably, they're all packed up in front of the doors. As soon as they open the doors, people crush each other and someone dies. And MSNBC, NBC, ABC, all your radio stations They love it. They love it. They're like freaking vultures because, hey, now we got a great story to tell to put some negativity into the season. And I get it. I'm not into all the commercialization, um, but you choose what you want to focus on. As in this very day, I could sit here, oh, I'm all alone. Oh, I'm not good. I miss the good old days of the holidays. I do miss my parents. I miss my mom. I miss the traditions. I miss my aunts and uncles and cousins. I miss, I know that. Um, eh, eh, you know, and you could choose to focus on that, or you can say, you know what? I'm going to make the best of the day, and I'm going to have a really, really good time. I'm going to enjoy some nice whiskeys, maybe watch a movie, sleep in, take naps, whatever. And tomorrow, I'm going to decorate my house for Christmas, put up the lights, all the ornaments, and all that kind of stuff, because it puts me in a good mood. Listen to Christmas music. I do insist, don't listen to Christmas music until after Thanksgiving. I don't know if the president of the United States could do this, but if I was president, I'd make it a law. Hey, no freaking Christmas decorations or music until after Thanksgiving. All right, one damn holiday at a time. Michael Oporto asked me, "What did I have for dinner?" Well, I haven't had dinner yet. It's only 4:30. I had lunch. I had a turkey sandwich for lunch, but I eat turkey sandwiches all the time. I'm not doing anything special for dinner. I'm having a little bit of whiskey. I might put a chicken pot pie in the oven. I don't know. I haven't decided, but I'm not doing anything special for dinner. Hmm. Hmm. So it sounds a little bit Pollyanna. But in The Sound of Music, there is a song. Dun 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 dun. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when you're feeling sad, I think of a few of my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. Well, it sounds a little Pollyanna. It sounds a little, goofy or whatever, but there is a choice you can make as to what you're going to focus on. And so one of the things I do is count my blessings, the things that I am thankful for. As you get older, you start losing friends and family, whether they pass away or they move away or you just somehow lose touch with them. You start feeling the aches and pains. You wake up in the morning, oh, or whatever, you got all that, Um, the mind perhaps isn't as sharp as it used to be. But and you could, I remember my grandparents. I didn't want to be around. I hate to say this. I loved them, but in their, and then my grandmother lived to be 94. My grandfather lived to be around 80. My parents lived to be, both of them lived to be 79. Is anytime you're around them, they start complaining. Oh, this. Oh, in the news. Oh, well, stop watching the damn news. Oh, this. Oh, that. And they're complaining. I don't want to be around all that. I don't want to be around young people. I don't want to like to be around, the whining, entitled generation that we've got going on. And they're not all like that. Not all millennials or young people are like that, but a lot of them are. And I just don't want to hear it. Instead, I want to focus on the things that I am thankful for. And, we've had a real challenge over the last couple of years with the COVID crap. By the way, it's not just COVID. Now it's COVID crap. And we could focus on that. And I'm not being able to travel. And I wanted to go to Scotland. I wanted to go to Ireland. And, that whining crap. Get out the big violin. Oh, poor is me. But focus on the positive things, count your blessings, and have a sense of humor through all this. I started a new job mid-July, moved to a new home. I love my house. I love the neighborhood I'm in. I love my job. Yeah, I'm working my ass off. I'm putting in 60 hours a week. Last couple of weeks, I was doing a lot of business travel. I hate flying, and dealing with all that. But I I'm really, really, really thankful for everything I've got. I'm thankful for the whiskeys. I'm thankful for the friends that, hey, just think, we're doing this in the year 20, we're going through this in 2021. And I've got friends in Scotland. Roy's a friend. Scott and Bart in Wichita, Kansas are friends. The Scotch Four Dummies, Mark, Drew, Andrew, and Sean. I consider them friends. Daniel and Rex down in Austin, Texas are friends. I can go on and on and on. And Bill, the Whiskey Dictionary, friends. I've met all these people in person. Jason's Mash and Drum, and I can go on and on. And we can be thankful for the technology that we have. Yeah, technology has its cons as well, but I'm thankful for the technology we have, that it's amazing. We can interact, and it doesn't cost me a dime to interact with each other and sit down and virtually sit down together and have whiskeys. This is absolutely fantastic. When I was a kid, I know this is when you get older, you start telling stories. Well, back when I was a kid, I had to walk the snow and uphill and both ways to get to school. And we only had 5 television stations, and you start talking about, become Grandpa Simpson, we used to tie an onion around our belt because that was the style in those days, and become falsely nostalgic about the old days, about the good old days, which weren't all that good. Well, there were good things about it, but a lot of things weren't, just as it is today. But we can really recognize the miracle of technology, and then we can hang out together. Also, the reality is, without the modern technology, we wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. We didn't know those whiskeys. All you knew is what you found in a magazine and what you found in a local liquor store. Other than that, you didn't know it really existed, right? So we can be really thankful that the reason why you can't get the whiskeys that you can get is because of technology. There's more awareness, and so they've been bought out, and because we can order things online and have them sent to you. And so the consumer base has gotten larger because access to be able to buy has expanded. In short, that's really what it's all about. So that's the first thing. I'm thankful for so many things. I'm thankful for my relative good health. So the place that I live, my job, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for this element of modernity that enables us to interact with each other, that I don't have to hang out alone, that we can hang out together, and I can make friends around the globe. And we can hang out virtually. Number 3, I'm thankful for my relatively good health. Yeah, I got asthma, and every once in a while you get aches and pains and whatever else, but relatively good health for now. I'm thankful for the freedom that we still have in this country. There are so many people around the world who have so far less, who are living under either communist regimes, Islamic totalitarianism, or some other sort of oppressive regime. All the people that are rioting and doing all that crap, they need to take a trip. They need to get on a plane. They need to go to another country, and then they come back and be thankful for the country that we live in. We still have great opportunities here if you're willing to work hard, try hard, persevere. Our forefathers shed a lot of their own blood in order to get us the freedom that we have. I'm thankful for my grandfather, fought in the Second World War, my father in Korea, my brother in Desert Storm, and I was in the Marine Corps, but during peacetime. We really do have a lot to be thankful. I'm thankful that I'm in California, where we have decent weather. It's probably, I don't know, maybe 70 degrees outside and sunny, although it's getting dark a little earlier now. I'm not freezing my ass off in the Midwest. Hey, and to the friends and family who are out there in 10 feet of snow, cheers to you. Hope you make it through the winter. I'm not, I like California when during the fire season, not so much, but during this time of year, it's the best place to be. Absolutely love it. So, in the chat, and if you're watching this on the replay, name something you are thankful for. Everybody right now, and I'll try to read some of them off. Name something that you are thankful for? Mike Hassler says 70 degrees is too hot for me. Yep. Hey, Potter Potterma 63. Thanks for tuning in. By the way, I had some technical difficulties with YouTube earlier. So I can't see some of the chats. I can watch some of the chat. Some of it is having little challenges with. But anyway, so what is something you're thankful for? What is something you're thankful for? One of the things we do not have the ability to do, if there's someone you are super pissed off with, or you have unforgiveness with, or you didn't get along with, you cannot hope and wish the best for them. Pray for them if you're a praying person, and at the same time be angry at them or resentful and all the crap. Those two things can't be maintained at the same time. They go against each other. You can't be stealing from someone and being kind and giving to them at the same time. Those two things don't go together. To get yourself out of an oh woe is me, poor pitiful me mood, that sort of coming down on yourself and getting down and feeling down and whatever else, and be thankful at the same time, or be other centered. If you can be centered on other people and doing things for other people, and get yourself out of yourself and doing things for other people, you will find that your self-centeredness and being so focused and preoccupied with your own problems, that it'll get you out of that. So, and I don't talk about all this stuff. So I was at the grocery store the other day, a grocery store I don't normally go to. And I was in the wine aisle. It's interesting just to see what wines are held at what they have at a grocery store. And on the other side of the aisle was a refrigerated unit where they had beers. And there was this older gentleman. He was in a wheelchair. I think he was missing one leg. And he was looking at the beers. Now, I'm not a beer guy. I'm not into beers. I don't need another alcoholic beverage obsession. And he was looking at the beers. And I thought to myself, he's in the wheelchair. He's missing a leg. How is he going to reach a beer that he wants? So I turned around, I said to him, and I started up a conversation with him. Is there anything I can help you with? Can I reach something for you? And there was a particular can. It was some craft brewery thing, funky labels on it. I'd never seen before. And so I reached it over for him. I got it for him and I handed it to him. And then I jokingly said to him, "Hey, have you ever considered switching to wine, rather than beer?" And I was joking in a joking fashion because I'm more of a wine guy. And I just started talking to him, chatting with him about beer and wine and whatever else. Ross Fudd says, "Hey, Eric, glad I don't have any of those kinds of relationships." Me too. But anyway, so I started talking to this gentleman, and we started talking. Eventually, I need to move on with my grocery shopping. So, you go up and down the aisles. I need some breakfast cereal. I need some, eggs. You need some coffee. You need some, all you think. I then get around to the checkout line, and I got my cart. It's full of stuff. And who pulled up behind me but this older gentleman in the wheelchair? And I turn around, and he can't be in a wheelchair and push a cart at the same time. But so basically what it is, he had like these bags on the side of his wheelchair, and he would fill them up with the groceries he had. He probably had a dozen things and this thing of beer and stuff. And, there's a thing where you put in your card and put in your code and you pay for your groceries rather than spending cash. And as I looked over him and I looked back and I finished paying for my groceries, and I helped the lady, the cash register lady, she was bagging stuff, and I stepped over and I was, helped her bag. I always help bag my groceries. They're busy all day, so I always help bag stuff and then put it into my cart so they don't have to do all the bagging. And finished paying for it, and then I just stood there. I didn't leave with my cart. And so I continued talking to this gentleman, and she runs his things, bling, bling, they put it through the scanner and all that. And as soon as she got to the last item, I told her, I'm paying for his groceries too. And he didn't say anything. He didn't. I was surprised. He was just maybe a little stunned. So I paid for his groceries. And I helped him load his, because he's got bags and stuff. And I asked him, so I mean, how are you getting all this stuff home? He goes, oh, I live in an apartment complex, like right across the street. I said, oh, okay. I don't remember what his name was. We'd exchanged names and stuff. So I shook his hand and said, God bless you, and we went our ways. On my way home, I felt, it just sounds strange, I felt higher than a kite. And I try not to get emotional. I felt really thankful that I had the opportunity to help him out. And that such a small gesture can mean such a lot to a person. It's not about the money. It's not about the money or how much it costs. I think his groceries might have cost, I don't know, 50, 60 bucks. I don't know. So it wasn't a lot of money. But it's the thought and it's the gesture, and that you can look for these opportunities to do a random act of kindness, to do a random act of kindness. So, and I think in these times when there's so much negativity, so much, and there are, the news media feed off this, and they make money out of it, and you just get tired of it. Is you can make a choice to make a difference, even just for a moment, and just small, to make a difference in someone else's life. And it's the thought behind it more than anything else. More than anything else. Look for those opportunities. Oh, yeah. Aqvavitae, thank you very much. I didn't know you're watching. Every time a Glencairn rings, an angel gets its wings. Look for those opportunities to brighten someone else's day. Because he's going to go back to his apartment, and it's going to have an impact on him. I don't know him. I didn't know him. I don't. Was he down earlier today? Was that the reason why he was buying beer? Because he was feeling down? Has he had a hard life? I don't know. Is he a veteran, lost his leg? Is his family passed? I don't know we don't know each other's story. I don't know his story. But you can look for a little moment to be a blessing to someone else's life. And while we should be like this 365 days a year, not just during the holidays, it can be especially acute. The impact you can have on someone, and just look for those opportunities. And you will find that as much as it might have been a blessing to him, that how much, and I didn't do it because of this. I didn't know I would feel like this, but it really changed my whole day, and I was thankful for it. So, all right, let's move on to, I'm going to finish this one. We're going to move on to the next whiskey. So anyway, so I like the Lagavulin 8. It is youthful. If you're a peat head and smoke head, and you want something with a little bit more of that oomph in your face, smoky character, and yet without the oceanic, without the medicinal iodine character, the Lagavulin 8 is quite nice. It is quite nice. I like the Ardbeg. I like the Ardbeg Wee Beastie a little bit more, but this is still very, 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 very nice. Roy, if you're still watching, Roy, I don't know if you're gonna stay up. There is this thing that happens on Islay. Speaking of Islay, there's this thing, Roy, if you're still here, you put it in the type thing if you can. There's this thing that happens on Islay, and I have tried to carry that over here. That really, beyond the whiskeys and the distilleries and all that kind of stuff, that really made a huge impression on me. That as you're traveling around Islay, there's something that happens. What is it? As you're traveling around Islay, there's something that happens. Roy, if you're watching, right, type it in there. The wave. Yes, Roy, absolutely. The wave, the Islay wave. Now, part of it might be part of it might be the fact that some of the roads you've only got one lane, right? You're driving like this, and someone else and so you're coming at each other, and it's on Erin and the Kintyre Peninsula, and some of the more places of Scotland's like this. But you come like this, and basically one person has to move over. There's these little turnouts. You move a little turnout, and then the other person could drive by, and then you could continue on your way. But even if there is two lanes, something that happens is the wave. And it's just really, really cool that even in town, say in Beaumont is sort of in the middle of, I'll bring up the map real quick. Yeah, here we go. So there's a map of Islay, and you see where Beaumont Distillery is. That's also that's in the town of Beaumont. It's probably the most popular, and it's a teeny weeny town, but that's sort of the center of Islay. So even if you're going through downtown Beaumont, and you have two lanes, people just wave. Everybody's waving. People are waving, and generally, I find people in Scotland just to be super friendly. This going on now. I live in a place called Oakmont. So I live in Santa Rosa, which is the city, which is within Sonoma County. But I live in an area called Oakmont. It's off the Sonoma Wine Trail, and these houses, and you have to be at least 55 to be here. I turned 55 2 weeks before I moved in here. Most of the people here, I would say, are 70 and older. Most of them are retirement people. So I decided in this housing area called Oakmont that I'm going to take a little bit. I was inspired by Islay. I'm going to bring a little bit of Islay. Maybe I should stand on the corner with some whiskeys or something. I'm going to bring a little bit of Islay here to Oakmont. And so I don't know these people. Most of them are gray-haired old ladies and old men. They're out walking their dog or somewhere out on the golf course. Wave. Whenever I'm driving along. Wave. You drive along. Wave. Wave, 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 wave. And they're probably all wondering, who is that bald guy, that young bald guy? I'm the kid here in the neighborhood, right? Because I just turned 55. I'm waving. And you know what they do? They wave back. They wave back. Scotch Down Under says, we have the wave out in small towns. Yeah, it's probably a small town thing. Hey, Whiskey Straight Owl, thanks for tuning in. Whiskey Straight Owl is over in Ireland. Check out his channel. And I find people wave back who if they can see me. Sometimes they're not looking or whatever. And it just, how difficult is it to wave? I'm going to pour myself another dram. So that was the 8-year-old. I'm going to move over into the 11-year-old, the Offerman edition. The smallest, easiest, simplest little gesture can go so far. All right, so let me bring up the notes for the 11-year-old, and then I'll continue with my storytelling. All right, the Lagavulin 11-year-old Offerman edition. The original release, which is what I have, is an ex-bourbon cask. However, the most recent release is aged in Guinness cask. Scotch Test Dummies tasted, really liked it, and Mash and Drum liked it. It sells for about $90. Of course, prices can always vary according to wherever you live. All right. So this is my next one. All right. I talked about being at the grocery store earlier. So bumper to bumper traffic. People get in bumper traffic, and they're in a hurry, not at home, and there can be a hectic character to the holidays. Everyone's trying to get that stuff done. People after work are going shopping. Some people, you can buy all your stuff online. People are going shopping. There can be, but they got to go get all the groceries, and they got to prepare for meals. And if you come from a dysfunctional family, maybe getting together with the family isn't going to be the best experience. I made a joke about the crazy uncle tells the same stupid stories all the time. In my video for top 5 whiskeys for the holidays. And so if the social dynamic in your family is messed up, then maybe sometimes it's the holidays become something you have to survive, something you have to endure, rather than something you really enjoy. And that can be that character there. Sometimes it's better to spend the day with friends, your buddies, than it is to spend with your family, depending on your family dynamics. When I was away, when I was in the Marine Corps, the first 2 years I was in the Marine Corps, I didn't get to go home for the holidays because I was based in PMH. The last 2 years I spent with the Air Wing, and could go home for the holidays. And I made a mistake. My third year in the Marine Corps, I thought, oh, we have a 4-day weekend, Thursday, Friday, and then it was week Saturday, Sunday, so I can go home. I can drive back to the Bay Area. It's an 8-hour drive. So I take off. We broke off at noon, I think on Wednesday. I thought, oh, well, I can drive home, be home. I had no concept of what the traffic. It took me 11 hours to drive from Camp Pendleton to Walnut Creek, where I grew up. It's an 8-hour drive. It took me 11 hours to get there, and I had a stick shift. So I'm driving through Los Angeles traffic for second, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. I mean, it just took me forever to get to LA. Anyway, so now I don't like commuting just before holidays. Anyway, but I'm glad I made the trek. Got there like 11 o'clock midnight or something. Eventually made it home for Thanksgiving, and then had to drive back on Sunday. But for some people, and some people, they may be experiencing for the first time. This is our first Thanksgiving without mom or dad or grandma, grandpa, or aunt. I remember the first Thanksgiving. My dad died in April 2009. And I remember that first Thanksgiving, you could feel the void in the room. He'd been gone from April to November, but the holidays are especially acute that if someone in the family is not there, they're not being there is really, really, really noticed. And then Christmas. And then, of course, when my mom passed away, and then my brothers and my wife and everything else, it just becomes more and more acute, which then can make the holidays more difficult. And so you have to kind of think, this is the way I think about it, is how would they want you to spend the day? Would they want you to spend the day sit around being sad and moping their loss? Or would they want you to enjoy the day? Remember the good times, but enjoy the day and seek other relationships and other ways to enjoy the day. And sometimes that has to be your motivation is, what would they want me to do? Would they want me sitting around being sad or whatever that they're not here? Or would they want me to enjoy my life? Well, what you've got and what you got left. Now, my mom wasn't into whiskey. Nobody in my family was into whiskey, so I don't think they necessarily want to say, "Hey, Eric, we want to enjoy the day by drinking Lagavulin." But this is how I'm enjoying. This is how I'm enjoying the day. All right. So the Lagavulin 11-year-old, it's darker. It's darker than the 8-year-old. I mean, so the first thing you notice there, the green notes aren't there. That sort of lemon lime, melon character isn't there. It's not as briny. It's much more chocolatey, almost like a milk chocolate. And so even though I haven't tasted it, I can tell how much more it's integrated. One of the things I like about Lagavulin, if you're going to introduce someone to smoke and peat, it doesn't have the medicinal oceanic character, although maybe just a touch of that saltiness. It seems, even regardless of the ABV, it's very, very approachable. It's really, really, really intertwined. And so it's, in a sense, softer and almost seductive in a sense. No, we could complain. I know, because I wish be a be a force for positive change in the whiskey industry, to try to influence the whiskey industry to get away with E150, etc. I'm all for that. But whether they change or not, I'm not going to allow them to ruin my pleasure and enjoyment of whiskeys. And those characteristics in the whiskey that are there that I like, that I enjoy, even if they chill filtered, even if they put a little bit of E150 in it. I wish they wouldn't do that stuff, but I'm not going to allow them to determine whether or not I enjoy something or not. I'm not going to get religious or I'm a fundamentalist about my whiskey, and I can become fundamentalist about my whiskey. And I enjoy Lagavulin. I like that it's readily available. I like that I can afford it. It is a softer feel. It doesn't have a strong bite. It is approachable. It is, I would say this is a gentler whiskey. And I just generally like it. And this is completely subjective. I'm kind of in a Lagavulin mood. I'm kind of in a Lagavulin mood. And there's certain things about these whiskeys that are typical of a big conglomerate, large organization such as Diageo. When you become a big, huge conglomerate, in your larger production, you tend to lose some of the distinctiveness, some of the character. Things start to become a little. When you're trying to be all things to all people in order to be marketable, you take off the rough edges, and you trying to please everybody. Whereas one of the things I like about Laphroaig is they play up the smack and the oddness, and how some people get put off by Laphroaig. They've actually marketed that. They've embraced it, and I like that. But that being said, the fact that I think Lagavulin does try to be more of a peated whiskey for all people. I think there are less concrete, radically distinctive characteristics between the whiskeys in comparison to, say, previously mentioned Bunnahabhain or even Laphroaig and Ardbeg. And yet, because they are trying to be all things to all people, when I'm in the mood, this isn't like a huge, thought-provoking, mind-blowing whiskey that's going to captivate my attention and I'm just going to focus on it. It is going to be a whiskey that, hey, it's holidays time. Someone brought, maybe to the office, they brought a box of See's candy. I don't know if you have, you probably don't have See's in the UK. They brought a box of candy, some chocolates, and hey, sharing in the office, in the cubes, whatever. And so you take one, you pop one in your mouth, and you let the chocolate melt in your mouth, and you got the caramels and the vanilla and the nougat. You maybe have some nuts on the inside, and you just enjoy it. And you're thankful that someone brought a box of, candy, of chocolates, to the office for the holidays. Yeah, it's made by some company. You can get them at any grocery store. Maybe they get them at Costco. Costco is a huge warehouse type grocery store where everything's sold in bulk, and yet, it's a little delicious treat in the workday, a little pep of something delicious in the workday that gets you through the workday, and a very small, kind gesture from a fellow coworker. And it's not a mind-blowing chocolate or treat, but it's just a little something. Say, that's good, and you enjoy it. Same thing with this whiskey. By the way, I don't know if you see, there's a logo on. I got the Lagavulin logo on this one. I picked this up at the distillery. Got the Lagavulin, but you can buy these online as well. I don't know how much, but I bought this one from the distillery. So Mark Ray says, I prefer the pepper barbecue palette of last year's Offerman, than this year's. So Mark, what was it? So I've only bought one bottle. I've not bought another one. I've got plenty of other whiskeys. What's the difference between last year's and this year's? Is it different in the casks? I could do a little, a little research. I know there was a Guinness cask. Did they do any other casks? Um, there is a PX. There is a Lagavulin PX cask, I believe. It might be might be a cask strength that I would like to have my eyes open for. Anyway, so I'm just sort of in a Lagavulin mood and really enjoying the whiskey. So going from the 8 to the 11, you can tell those extra 3 years. That sort of youthful green character has gone away. The smoke and the peat is much more integrated. It's the chocolate character is going a little bit more towards a dark chocolate, and so it's not a smack upside the head of the peaty character of the 8-year-old. It's rich, it's sweet all the way through. There's a little bit of a minty character on the back end. But I've had times where, in fact, just recently, where you're reading a book or I'm editing a video or something. And I just finished doing the series on Irish whiskey, and I'll be doing a series on Texas whiskey soon. But I wanted to enjoy some peat just before I did that. And you pour yourself some, maybe watch a movie or whatever, and you put it in your mouth and you just kind of hold it for a while. And it's just this delightful experience. So I really, really like this whiskey. Is it the best of all of the Lagavulins? No, I think the next one I'm going to get into is probably the best in terms of the ones that are widely available. But it's still a damn good dram. It's damn good whiskey. One of the things, I'm talking about thankfulness versus complaining. When I was in the Marine Corps, long time ago, another thing you do when you get older, you start telling stories about decades ago. When I was back now, when I was in the Marine Corps, decades ago, and you'd go to the chow hall to eat breakfast, and food was free. So you go from the barracks to the chow hall, and you go through line, you get the metal tray, and you get your food and whatever. And you have these big cups, and you go get a cup of coffee. I think Starbucks might have just started at the time. We're talking 1986, 87, somewhere around there. I gotta say, is chow hall coffee was not the best, but you put a lot of cream and sugar in it, and you drink it. And when I was in military police and I worked the night shift, and you wanted coffee, a lot of times you were drinking was instant coffee. Or if you were out in the field on 29 Palms doing training or something, yeah, in the MREs, you had these little packets of instant coffee. And so what you drank was Maxwell House, Folgers, Crystals. I can't even remember all those brands from back then. I remember the commercials. Maxwell House, good to the last drop. And chow hall coffee. That's what you had. And then I remember when Starbucks came around for the first time, and it was just like a whole nother level. IC86 says the Army chow halls he experienced were very good. Well, I don't know when you're in. The food was the breakfast was good. The omelets were good. They had something called SOS, shit on a shingle, chip beef on toast. It was good. Some of the food was good, but the coffee wasn't so much. Yeah. MREs, meals ready to eat, right? Or we call them meals rejected by Ethiopians. Sanka. Oh, Paul M. Sanka. Oh, Sanka. Oh, that Sanka was the worst in terms of instant coffees. That was bad. But my point is, when Starbucks came around and it was a whole new game of coffee. And you realize, wow, this is really, really, really good. And my grandparents, my dad's parents lived in, my mom's parents died when I was little, so I didn't really know them. My grandparents lived in Ontario, California, which was an hour and a half north of Camp Pendleton. So I lived in the Bay Area, They lived in Ontario, California, sort of Riverside County. My grandfather was a retired naval officer, and they were people of the Depression. My father was born 1930, so he was a Depression child. And so they were very, 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 very frugal or cheap. And they drank instant coffee. And there was this time I was going to go visit my grandparents. Hold on. And I loved my grandparents, but they were challenging to be around. And I knew I was going to see them. I was just, stay over there maybe for the weekend, or my parents' family would come down for the holidays, be at my grandparents, and then I would drive up for the holidays. And my grandparents, what coffee are they? Is grandma and grandpa going to have? They're going to have Taster's Choice. I think that's what they drink, Taster's Choice. And I'm just like, Taster's Choice. So in the barracks, so now that Starbucks is coming out and you can buy Starbucks, I got myself a little tiny coffee maker that I had in my barracks room. So I didn't have to drink chow hall coffee. I could drink coffee that I made. So I had my own coffee maker. And when I was in military police on Camp Pendleton, there are gates, along the coast, on the base and stuff. So if I was a patrol driving around, or if I was standing at a gate, I would take my coffee pot to that particular. If I was up in the northern part of the base, I'd drop it off at the nearest gate and would make coffee there, so I could come by and have coffee, and whoever the MPs who were standing gate that night, they could have coffee. So I had my own coffee maker. I had my own coffee. So I brought, this time to go see my grandparents, I brought the coffee maker and I brought the coffee. And time for breakfast. And I said, Grandma, you want some coffee? And she said, sure. So I'm going to make her some coffee. And when I poured her some Starbucks coffee, she would eat, the expression on her face, she was completely blown away about how good the coffee was. And I said, see, Grandma, if you spend $1, you can actually drink really good coffee. Now, I don't know if it was because they're, it's easier to just put two teaspoons of some hot water in a cup and make a cup of coffee than to, do the filter and all 9 yards. But my point to this is, I hear people complain about Starbucks. Oh, it's too burnt. Oh, it's over roasted. Oh, it's this, that, and the other thing. I hear people complain about Starbucks. Now, I wouldn't spend $3-4 a day to go through a Starbucks drive-through to buy my coffee every day. You can buy a bag of Starbucks for $9 to $12 and make it at home. So I would, and you can choose your own amount of how much ground you want in ratio to the water. But anytime I hear someone complain about Starbucks, I go, you have no freaking idea how good that coffee is. Switch to Taster's Choice. Switch to Senka. Mark says old ladies love Senka. It's not even with chicory. I remember the commercial. What the hell is chicory? And why in the hell would I want that in my coffee? Drink instant coffee for a month. This is much. Drink instant coffee for a month. And then go back and drink Starbucks. And you'll be like, damn, Starbucks is really good coffee. Or Pete's. I tend to go either Starbucks or Pete's, depending which one's on sale, which one's a little bit cheaper. I generally probably like Pete's a little more than Starbucks. And I tend to go for French roast. But the point is, people who spend a lot of time complaining need to, in the United States, they need to go to another country and see how bad it is in other places. People who just complain about Starbucks need to drink instant coffee for a month. And people who complain about whiskeys, and I've heard Ralphie say this, and Roy, as he's, how much just the availability and single malts that we have today that didn't exist. And remember, Roy was reading out of one of those the whiskey books. I don't remember what year it was, maybe 2018, 2019. I don't know what the year it was. And one of the things that commented on was how many more single malts there are today in comparison to just a few years ago. So, well, and I'm all for speaking my mind and telling it the way it is and while I see it, and I think things can always use improvement. I don't want to be out of balance with that and not be thankful for what we have and recognize how good things are. And then in many ways, things are better now than they were before. Some things still need to get fixed. We still have a long way to go, a lot of social issues, but things are better than they used to be, and be thankful for those things. Mm, 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 mm. The finish on that is like a melted Snickers bar. The chocolate, the nutty, the nougat. I can almost picture like if you bite into a Snickers bar and you pull it and you get that long stretch of caramel, as that caramel stretches out from it. I kind of get a picture of that as I'm on the finish of that. Really, really, really delicious. All right, I'm gonna bring up the notes for the 16-year-old because I don't have a bottle of the 16-year-old. I'm gonna bring the notes up for it, just because it's part of the core range. You should be familiar with it. I didn't realize it didn't have a 16-year-old. It must have emptied one and then didn't get another one. And today's a holiday, so most stores are closed. I couldn't run out and buy one. But just for in case you're drinking the 16-year-old, I'm going to bring up the notes for the 16-year-old, and then I'm going to go back and do the 12. All right. So the 16-year-old, basically refilled European oak cask, bottle of 48% alcohol by volume. Prices range anywhere between $73 and $90. This is probably the flagship of Lagavulin. If someone's going to recommend a Lagavulin or people are going to reach for a Lagavulin, this is probably it. I know there's also some differences between the releases. Some can be better and lesser than others. Same thing with the 12-year-old cask strength. But this is probably the go-to. I'm going to imagine this is probably, other than the 11-year-old, this is probably Nick Offerman's go-to as well. All right, now I'm going to bring up the 12-year-old. All right, so the 12-year-old, excuse me, I'm holding down a belch. Sorry, I didn't want to burp. Lagavulin 12, it's cask strength, 57.5% alcohol by volume, goes for about $142. So a significant jump in price. I have a couple different 12-year-olds. I think I have the 2016 edition, which is for the 200th anniversary, which is what I'm drinking tonight. And I got the 2017 as well. All right. So this is the 200th anniversary edition of the 2016. So it has that special sticker on there, 2016 to 1816 to 2016 label on there. This is the cask strength. Me personally, if I'm going to recommend a Lagavulin, this is probably going to be the one that I'm going to actually recommend. Unless someone's new to peat or new to Islay, for the very first time they want to try something from Lagavulin, this is probably what I'm going to recommend. Whiskey says, or EH, have a bottle of the 200th edition. I know where there's another on the fence. I'm getting a backup. It's good, but how much whiskey is too much? Probably the wrong people to ask. Yeah, you're talking to the wrong guy here, man. I don't need more whiskey. I need more shelves to put it on. When I moved into this house, I expanded my shelves, but not by much. And for the next couple of years, I need to be buying bottles. Hey, Richard Mamera, how you doing, man? Richard Mamera says, happy bird day. Look forward to see you. We'll be meeting up there in mid-January. I need starting at the beginning of the year, most of the whiskeys. So I have a bunch of independent Islas I'll be doing. Well, let me back up. I'm going to be doing a series of Texas whiskeys for December, mostly Balcones. And then starting in January, I'll be doing some independent Islas. And I'll probably finish with that probably late February. And then for the next 2 years after that, I need to focus on Scotch and become familiar with distilleries that I've never had before. I got a bottle of Ardnamurchan I've actually had a bottle of Glenallachie. I've not spent. I know Glenallachie's been really hyped. I've not spent any time with them. I'm looking at bottles I bought. I'm hoping to return to Scotland this next year. If not, then in 2023. Depends on how this COVID crap goes. For academic purposes, I really want to spend more time familiarizing myself with the layout of the land, and go to places I haven't been to. I haven't been to the northwestern islands, where Raasay and Talisker and those and Ardnamurchan are. I haven't been up there before. But I also would like to spend a whole week just in Speyside visiting the distilleries there that I haven't been to yet. So, like the previous whiskey, it has a very distinctive Lagavulin signature, Lagavulin character, and almost like, so when you get the peat and the smoke going on, and you're trying to determine what it is, you could sort of determine what it's not. It doesn't have the oceanic medicinal iodine and that sort of abrasive smack in the face of smoke. So then you kind of go, okay, so that's probably not Laphroaig. There's a character to Ardbeg, and the only way I can describe it is if you ever took a pottery class and you get some wet clay and you get the pottering wheel and you go, and the thing's spinning around, right? And you're going like this and you're molding into a vase or something. And as you're molding this thing into a vase, you're holding on the clay, like the shaping it, you can kind of smell the wet clay. Ardbeg sort of has that earthy character. It does, and it doesn't have that. So by way of negation, okay, I know it's not Laphroaig, and I know it's not Ardbeg, which leaves you with more likely either Bowmore or Kalila. I don't know how to describe the distinctiveness of Kalila peated, other than, to me, Kalila, the single malts, the peat, seems like they're missing something. Like there's other elements that should be there. That's the only way. That's the only way. Not that it's not good. I just seem that there's something else that should be there. That's the way I've described Kalila. Wow. Wow. So look at the color of this. I know my lighting here is not that great. It's lighter in color than the 11-year-old. Has a slight green tinge to it, similar to the way of the color of Ardbeg. So I'm going to guess that it's got no added coloring to it because it's fairly light. Similar to the 11-year-old, it has a similar chocolate nougat character to it, caramel flavor to it, like the interior of a candy bar. But the delivery is much more acute. There's a little bit more of a mint character in the finish. It has more mouthfeel, more intensity. In some ways, the 11-year-old has more richness, but the 12-year-old has more oomph, for lack of better description, obviously because of the ABV. What it does have, it comes through much more aggressive, much more of a solid hit. And then very, very, very distinctive minty character on the back end that I wasn't getting on the 11-year-old. But still an absolutely delicious dram. And I got to say, I don't have a 16-year-old, and this is going from memory, and memory could be flawed. Usually, I have said that I liked the 12 better than the 16 because of the cask strength. But based on memory of of the 16-year-old, I wish unfortunately, particularly for this live stream, I wish I had a bottle of the 16-year-old. I think I like the 16-year-old better than not that's not good. It's very, very good. I like the 16-year-old more than the 12-year-old. Perhaps previous impressions, it was because of the high ABV, and I liked that. That I allow it to persuade me to like it more than the 16-year-old. But right now, I think Richard Agnew says, gotta say, I'm enjoying the stream tonight. Well, I'm glad you are. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Um, thanks for tuning in. How many people got watching? 35 people tuning in. Cool. But I guess say if I had to, and I know, even though I don't have it in front of me, I just from going from memory, I like the 16 more than this at this particular moment. So, all right. So things I'm thankful for. Thanksgiving. Thankful for my job and the current situation and the house I'm living in. And I could go on and on about that. I live near Sacramento. In summertime, it's 20 to 30 degrees hotter there than it is here. I'm as the crow flies, I'm 10 miles from the ocean. We have an awesome fog that rolls in the morning. It really cools things off, which is good for the vines, good for the vineyards, good for the grapes. Helps maintain acidity. Around 10 o'clock, sun comes out. You can almost set your watch to it. 10 a.m., sun comes out, fog goes away, which then helps you maintain the sugar levels for the grapes. And if the fog didn't go away, you would get gray mold on your vines. That would not be good. So it's which is why this is really an ideal place for grapes for making wine. I like the neighborhood. I like the people. I like the people I'm working with. I like the team I'm leading at work. I just really like it. I'm thankful for the freedoms we still have in this country and hope we don't lose them. I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful, I think when I was a kid, you don't really get a sense of what your parents do. And you take it for granted, they're the providers. As every year goes by, I find I'm not gonna get emotional again. I find myself more and more thankful for my parents, particularly my mom, and the sacrifices my parents made. Both my parents worked. My dad worked for the post office for 42 years. My mom worked for the post office for 27 years, and they worked the night shift so they could be home when we were home, but also because they got a night differential pay. They weren't college educated; they were just blue collar middle class workers. And I remember times when I was a kid, they would be working Christmas Eve, come home from work, and then we'd have Thanksgiving. And they'd been up all night. And they came home, took the presents, and put them under the tree so that we could have Thanksgiving. And we were very much middle class. So my parents didn't have money to give us a car when we turned 16. If you wanted a car, you buy yourself. They didn't have money to send us off to college, none of that kind of stuff. But we always had a roof over our head. We always had clothes. They had 5 boys they were raising. And we had a couple of vacations, a couple of trips to Disneyland, that kind of a thing. But they really went all out during the holidays to make Thanksgiving special, to make Christmas special. And because my birthday was in the middle of summer when everybody's out of school in July, they always made my birthday special. And we went to amusement parks and stuff like that. And I don't remember hearing my parents complain, really, about having to work so much. Not so much. And they would drive from Walnut Creek to Oakland, probably 30 miles, every day. Probably at least a half an hour, 45 minutes to get to work and drive home in the morning. And for a long period of time. And the really, really made the holiday special. And I took it for granted when I was a kid. Like a lot of kids, you get spoiled and you don't really know. You just, gimme, gimme, gimme. But as I get older, I'm more and more and more thankful. And even though she's not here, I find myself saying, I find myself thinking my mother. Um, this is a card that I've kept from my mom. Um, and she wrote, "Dear Eric, thank you for making Christmas so special. You made me especially blessed to have such a giving son. Also, you made me feel loved and cared for. I love you, Mom." Um, you can see her hair was thinning. That's where I got the baldness from my mother's side of the family. Um, so I find myself very, 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 very thankful for my mom and my dad. Um, you know, as you get as I get older, and um, I look for opportunities to try to honor them. And let's talk about being at the grocery store. Um, when if you're at a grocery store and you see, and I've had this happen a few times. My mom was short. My mom was like 4'11", and I think as she got older, she shrunk down to about 4'9". She was very tiny. Um, and I used to take my mom grocery shopping, and I'd help her out. And Christmas time, because I always had pickup trucks, I would take my mom out, and we'd get the Christmas tree and put it in the back of the truck, and I'd get a wreath. And as an adult, I would pay for the Christmas trees. I would pay for the wreaths. We'd go out to lunch. It was a thing. You made a day of it, and you bring the tree home, and then you decorate the tree, and you listen to Christmas music, and Nat King Cole, Bing Crosby, all your traditional Christmas music, the albums, and um, you get all the ornaments, and you put all the ornaments on. And as my mom was older and she wasn't as physically capable, she would sit there and she'd tell me, put this ornament there, put that ornament there, put that ornament there. She'd sort of give directions on where to put the ornaments, because she wasn't as physically capable, and you do it for mom. Um, and and you put the lights on the tree, and you put and all that kind of stuff. And I still have a lot of the ornaments that I grew up with and the decorations, mom. And so I still have them. So tomorrow I'm gonna go I have them on the garage. I'm gonna get on the garage. I'm gonna decorate the house for Christmas as I always did traditionally with my mom. Um, 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 and I remember as she got older, I made a very conscious effort to be in the moment while they're here. Um, I knew, time is short. Life is but a vapor. Here today, gone tomorrow. And make the most of the moment to enjoy the time that you have with them now, because they're not always going to be there. And a day's going to come, a day's going to come, a time's going to come in which they're not there. And so you make the most of it while you can. And enjoy those times, enjoy those memories. I was not planning on doing this, by the way. Um, and those through photos and as much as you can, maintain those similar traditions as much as you can. You Because it puts you into the mood and the spirit of it. And as I mentioned before, if you're at the grocery store and you see a little old lady, I've had this happen a couple of times. There's a little lady, just like my mom was a little old lady, and you're at the grocery store, and say like this is a grocery store, and they're this tall, and they're trying to get a can of something, a beans, I don't know, whatever, or coffee, and they can't reach it, and you see them at the end of the aisle. I'm gonna go help that little. Hey, can I help you? I don't work for the grocery store. Can I help you? And that's, oh, I'm trying to get that box. I'm trying to get that can or whatever else. You take the time. Is this the one you want? Well, can I see that one? Sure, sure. Put it back up there. Take this other one down for them, whatever it is. And you take the time to spend time with them. You don't know them. It's some lady I don't know. We'll probably never see again. But in a sense, I do it to honor my mother because she's more than likely somebody else's mother. And and it's just, I mean, it's such a small thing. And to be a blessing with them. There was one, I was in the freezer section. Now I don't bring ice cream home. I could quit drinking wine like this. I can quit drinking whiskey. Uh Coffee, that's a whole other thing. I would have to go through detox to get off of coffee. I don't bring ice cream home because if I put a gallon of ice cream in my freezer, it'll be gone like in a week, if not faster. So I don't bring ice cream home. So I'm gonna take another sip. Hold on. Mm. Mm, 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 mm. So it's in the frozen food section. On one side is the ice cream. I like Breyers, but and I was on this. I don't know what I was getting. Something else frozen dinners. I don't know, whatever, something else. And I see this older lady, and she's looking at ice cream, and she's this big, you know. And a lot of times they're on a budget, maybe Social Security or something. So I go to help her out, and she wanted some ice cream, and she didn't really know what to get, and I could tell she's trying to save 50 cents on ice cream. You know what I mean? I buy what I want. I can buy anything I want. I just buy it. I don't pay attention to the prices. If that's the ice cream I want, I buy that. If that's the whatever, I buy it. But she's on a tight budget. So I'm going through. I said, yeah, this one's good, and I'm going through it. And she goes, oh well, I don't know, but that's kind of So I help her pick out an ice cream, and I get it to her, and so she can have because she wants some ice cream. And it's another one of those situations where I'm doing it for the sake of my mom, but I was also there's sort of getting a kick out of like I'm a sommelier of ice cream for a little old lady. you know, when I'm at a whiskey shop or whatever liquor store, and there are people who are looking for a wine, looking for whiskey, I find myself helping them out, and I go into my sommelier mode, right? Oh yeah, this wine is really, really good. This producer is really, really good. This is a really good vintage, type of wines or whiskeys. What do you like? Bourbons? Do you like this? And I find out I recommended whiskeys. But it was kind of like with this little old lady, I became an ice cream sommelier. and help her find the best quality price ratio ice cream that she could get and that I would recommend and that she would like. So anyway, I'm kind of telling stories. I don't know how I got into that one, but anyway, something to be thankful for. And a way you can demonstrate thankfulness for your loved one who's gone is express that same love that you had for them for somebody else in their name. So, in the name of my mom, I'm going to do this for someone else's mom. And the way to honor and respect and be thankful towards my mom is to help somebody out. I'm going to take another sip. How much better of a society we would have. I'm going to get into preaching mode. Is rather than leaning on the horn and flipping the bird, if we use the ILO wave to fellow drivers. How much better society and world would we have if we loved our neighbors by helping out the little old lady or the man in the wheelchair? how much more happier would we be if we found more things to be thankful for than to complain about? Um, and to be grateful for. I'm sorry if I'm getting preachy, but and I wish I lived up to these ideals. I wish I was more consistent because I know I'm not. I have, like a lot of most people, we have an interior voice. I find myself having to remind myself, Erik, stop doing this. Erik, be more thankful. Erik, be more thankful. Stop complaining. You have to tell yourself, you have to talk to yourself this way. Erik, you own your car, you don't own the road. You own your truck, you don't own the road. So don't react that way when someone gets in front of you on the road. When someone's driving slower than you want them to because you're in a hurry to get somewhere. That's how I talk to myself. And so I don't live up to the ideals that I adhere to and hold to. But we try. And this is a great season to do it. This is a great season. This is a great time to do it. And it would be a better world and be a better place to live in if we could do that, not only now during Thanksgiving and Christmas, but into the new year and for the rest of the year. It would be a much better place. Don't let the politics of the day, the news of the day, and all the stuff you hear on the news and on social media and all that crud determine your mood, your happiness, your thankfulness, and how you're going to interact with the world and how you interact with other people. So anyhow, I've been on for an hour and a half. Thank you, Jesus, for the whiskey. I'm sort of surprised. Of these three I've had tonight, I actually liked the 11-year-old more. I thought it was richer. I thought it was more chocolatey. There was more nougat. I probably need, and I could probably hear Roy telling me if he's watching, Erik, put a wee drop of water in the cast strength. I don't have a straw. I'm gonna try. I got to be very careful about this. Probably what I should have done is just put a drop of water. There we go. Just put a wee drop. Sometimes I forget to do that. I get so busy talking, and maybe it would be better. And don't swirl it. You don't want to integrate the water. Just put a wee drop. So very, very, very nice. Very, very nice. All right. So if you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up. If you're watching on a replay, thank you for watching. I hope you and your family have already have had an absolutely fantastic Thanksgiving. And as we head towards the rest of the holidays, Hanukkah, Christmas, maybe you don't even celebrate, or Festivus for the rest of us, whatever it is you celebrate, make it a joyful and cheerful one and thankful one. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in and for watching live and for listening to my stories. I was not planning on getting emotional, but I did. There you go. All right. Time for dinner and Slanjiva. Cheers.